अच्छा भाई आ गया है, बहुत थका हुआ है, उसको पानी दे दो. No, that doesn't work. The way to a man's heart is through his stomach. I also feel it works the opposite way. If you don't love your woman, she will leave you. And she will not leave you for another man. She will leave you because you don't love her. Our industry, women are looked upon or were looked upon as either someone that you could fantasize about, or they had to play the bichari maa. I would say the reason why I would want to stop talking about Maine Pyar Kiya is I believe that one shouldn't rest on past laurels. I go on a set.
Yes.
I see so many women around me which
Yes.
weren't there. No one was helping another
Agreed.
woman. I didn't believe in leaving them on nannies, and though I had my in-laws, I didn't think it was right to expect them to look after a toddler at that point of time. I would hate if I were to come back home and someone were to tell me कि आपके बच्चे तो हम संभाल रहे हैं. It is a fight that you have to win each and every day. So you have to, well, put on your armor and go there and do your stuff. Hi, my name is Bhagyashree and you're watching me on Midday.
Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of Midday's Powerful Women 2025 Season 3, and we are joined by none other than a person who is an icon. Please welcome Ms. Bhagyashree. Hello ma'am, how are
Hello.
you?
Hi.
Good to see you today. You look
Good to be
fabulous. You look fabulous as always. I mean, I have to say you haven't aged a bit. I don't know
Thank
how
you.
you do it, but I'm sure we will find out by the end of this interview. Since this is Powerful Women, I want to ask you, since you come from a royal lineage, I'm sure you're not alien to the word, but what does it mean to be a powerful woman in 2025?
I think power comes from being self-assured, self-confident, and true to yourself. So when there are no lies and you get what you see, I think that itself makes you very powerful.
Like I said, ma'am, everyone is familiar with your lineage and all of that, but you navigated a path for yourself. You are a self-made woman at the end of the day. But were there any apprehensions growing up from your childhood where you were sort of in a dilemma that, am I doing the right thing? Am I choosing this for myself? It is completely averse to what my family has brought me up to doing. Were you in that dilemma back in the day?
Well, growing up, I think most women at that point of time, the society has changed quite a bit right now, though I would still say it's a very patriarchal society, and we have to navigate through that. And there are small but definite changes that the so-called Gen Next is making. And we are that generation that's got in between, who wants to make those change, who are trying hard to convert into something that is equal both for men and women. But yes, while growing up, definitely there were a lot more no's, a lot more things that had to be taken care of, a lot more things that you had to be afraid of. A certain decorum had to be maintained, the way you carry yourself. For women, experimenting with something that they would like to do later on in life was absolutely a no-no. Also, we didn't have those many options.
Yes.
There were 3 divisions post your schooling: arts, commerce, and science. And you had to choose from them. There wasn't those many options at that point of time, where today there are so many diverse professions that women can take, and it's fantastic seeing them grow and own the profession.
Yes.
So I think it was much later on in life when you decide to kind of discover yourself, being someone other than being someone's daughter, someone's wife, someone's mother, and you start discovering yourself, and that's when you start making the changes that you would like to. So I think that struck quite late in life, but I'm happy that I did that.
Fantastic. And we are happy that you did that, because now we're sitting here, we are having this conversation because you took that leap of faith back in the day and now. Ma'am, I came across an interview with Kate Winslet where she said that she's sick of talking about Titanic.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe Maine Pyar Kiya has had the similar impact for you. I want to know, it's a very tricky question, But are you sick of talking about that movie? Because although it defined your career, but does it define you today?
Being sick of something is being upset with something. I wouldn't say so. Never. Because that connected me to the audience, to the world, to generations, in fact. And I'm still remembered by Maine Pyar Kiya. It is something that's written down in history. But when you talk about me personally, I would say the reason why I would want to stop talking about Maine Pyar Kiya is I believe that one shouldn't rest on past laurels. There are many more destinations to achieve, much more to achieve in my life, many more goals that I would like to take forth to. So, yes, I'm working towards that.
Yes.
Every time I don't want to say that I am from Maine Pyar Kiya. I would like to talk about my future projects and something other than what has been done.
Absolutely.
So, I'm working towards that direction, and you will see something very soon.
Definitely. Ma'am, I want to take you back to that time when you were, surrounded by a lot of overwhelming elements. You had your first movie, you were getting married, and then eventually you got pregnant. And I believe you were also working while you were pregnant. I believe you were shooting for the posters. You were surrounded by all these overwhelming elements. And as a woman, that's a lot to deal with because your hormones are everywhere. And I can absolutely relate. How was it for you, to maintain that sanity and still think about yourself first, put yourself first?
I think the most important thing for any person, it's not just being a woman, for any person is to prioritize their life. Once you have your set priorities, I wouldn't say it becomes easy, but it becomes possible for you to navigate through difficult situations. And I truly believe that someone up there, God puts you into situations so that you can better yourself. He gives you adversities so that you can create opportunities.
Yes.
And He gives you problems so that it makes you stronger because you can grow from those problems and cross those seas and climb those mountains.
Absolutely.
So once you look at adversities or problems with that perspective, I think you work much harder towards achieving your goals or where you want to be. And while I wouldn't wish that situation on anyone, like you said, yes, it is very, very difficult when you're going through that. But you can look back and smile once you've achieved all those things. So it was, I think, the belief in myself and the belief that I had to do it, I could do it, and I will do it.
Yes.
So all this had to be put into perspective, and only then one can manage to, cross over.
I met Avantika a couple of months ago, and she said that you would take her on set while you were working. And, obviously she got in the middle of a scene when you were getting beaten up, and we had a laugh about it. But what stuck with me was that you took her on set. You were a working mother, you had your baby with you. And I mean, as much as you are setting an example, what would you say to all those women who face that dilemma where, work, motherhood, they have to strike a balance? What would you say to these women who are just, sometimes there are hard days?
Of course, there are hard
Yes.
days. Of course, there are hard days. And you are in a tough situation.
Yes.
Where you want to achieve your dreams or you want to work, you want to keep yourself happy doing the kind of work that you'd want to. And at the same time, you have responsibilities not just of yourself, but of your family or your home or your children.
Yes.
And I think to strike a balance somewhere, there is no right and wrong. It is a fight that you have to win each and every day.
Yes.
So you have to, well, put on your armor and go there and do your stuff. um, Back there, I tell you, the basic thing I was that ghar sambhalna hai, and you have to look after your children. I didn't believe in leaving them on nannies. And though I had my in-laws, I didn't think it was right to expect them to look after a toddler at that point of time. And I would hate if I were to come back home and someone were to tell me कि आपके बच्चे तो हम संभाल रहे हैं.
Oh,
So I wouldn't like that. So I didn't want to put myself into a situation
yes.
like that. So I decided to take Avantika with me, and I must say uh, I was very fortunate that the people that I worked with and the industry down south was running on dot schedules. So they would start on time, they would have their lunch breaks on time, and they would end the shoot on time. And Avantika was a baby who had been brought up with those time frames in mind. So it was so wonderful. The only time where I would leave her with the nanny was when she was okay, awake, when she's finished her meal or whatever, and she'd come to visit me. Otherwise, I would be the one to give her food. I would make sure when she was really tiny, I would give her malish. उसको सुला के मैं जाके shooting करती थी, and then at break I would either come back to the hotel or get her to the set where I would spend time with her and again feed her and then put her back to sleep. And then by the time the shooting is done, and she would be there and I would play with her the whole night. It was tough when I was doing that, but the beauty of the situation was that I was enjoying both. I didn't want to leave being a mother to her, and at the same time, I wanted to enjoy my work. And I think I was more capable at that age than I was when Abhimanyu was born. I was far too young to manage both the worlds. But yes, with Avantika, that was possible.
Ma'am, you and sir have completed 35 years of marital bliss. And, obviously, when I spoke to Avantika, she said that even though the three of you are in showbiz, he's the biggest drama queen at home. But he's also the biggest green flag because we've seen how he treats you, nothing less than a queen, the way he's, there with you to raise both the children. I mean, he's the kind of support that you would only imagine for. And a woman is, blessed to have that kind of support in her life. What do you have to say to all the men out there who kind of, take things for granted, who don't treat their spouses the way they should?
If you don't love your woman, she will leave you. And she will not leave you for another man. She will leave you because you don't love her. To make your woman feel like yours, you have to love her with all your heart and soul. And she doesn't expect anything more than that. That itself makes her feel like a queen. Again, like I'm saying, from a woman's perspective, there's a lot more that me as a woman would have to give to lay in the foundation of a relationship. And that's how we are brought up in our society. That's what we are taught from our parents. And that's exactly what I did. It's that foundation of any relationship, when made so strong, doesn't allow anything else to break it apart. So while the world sees what he is for me today, it's also to do a lot with the foundation that has been built on.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, what do you have to say about women who are, married into a household, but they are asked to probably give up on their careers right after they get married or they have children, and they're just expected to follow the norm and leave everything in hindsight and just, raise a family. But you got best of both worlds because you chose for yourself. How important is the power of choice?
I think every woman, every human being has a choice of what is right and what is wrong. But in a society, there's also compromise and adjustment to make a society work. There are certain rules and regulations that have been written down, and it's very easy to break those rules because they're not written down anywhere. It's all there in your mind. It's what you've been taught with, what you've been brought up with, what you want to do with yourself. So these are choices that every human being makes, be it man, be it woman. And like I said, if you've got your priorities right, and I don't look down upon women who place their careers first, it's fantastic if you do that and you know that that's what you want to do.
Yes.
Because life becomes so much more simpler once you prioritize things in your life.
Yes.
I would say in today's generation, it's very, very important to discuss things like finances, children, adjustments in the house, help in the house. These are things to be discussed before you get married so you know what you're getting into.
Yes.
be it arranged, be it a love marriage, because I think most people fall in love and they think it's a bed of roses, which it isn't. It's an investment that you have to do every single day. So when you talk about choice, it's something that every individual makes themselves.
Yes.
And it becomes easier to veer on your path when you make those correct choices for yourself. And it's not about your family or your parents or your spouse telling you something that you should do or you shouldn't do, because it's something that comes from within. No one can put a gun at your head and force you to do anything. So it's a choice that you make. And I don't believe that any person doesn't have the choice. You have a choice to continue living with your family, continue making those adjustments, trying and convincing the other person on how you can manage both, or you choose to leave and walk away. So it's something um, that I think as a society we have to evolve, and we are doing that. And change is always going to be more gradual.
Absolutely. Like you said, ma'am, because you've been a part of this industry for decades, have you seen a very stark kind of evolvement in the way women as actors are treated on set in terms of the characters they've been offered? I'm sure back in the day, there was this notion that, oh, you have a certain shelf life, while, whereas your counterparts don't. I mean, they still continue to romance actors half their age, but women of your caliber are probably said that, oh, you have a certain shelf life, you will be given certain roles as you get older, as you age. Did you experience any kind of those hurdles, or
Definitely in our industry, women are looked upon or were looked upon as either someone that you could fantasize about, or they had to play the bichari ma.
yes.
That's how it was. But I think with the OTT platforms coming in, and the evolution of cinema, the evolution of society, and especially more so after COVID, where I think everyone saw world cinema, and that exposed their horizons, mental horizons, to seeing something other than what they were used to. So relationships changed, society changed, and of course, then films changed. And today, we have a variety of characters played by women also, which wouldn't have been thought of earlier.
Yes.
Yet, of course, predominantly the society shapes how films are written. So, like I said earlier, it will take some time. It's a gradual change that you can perceive in society around you, and then you will see it in films also.
Definitely. Ma'am, you're also an entrepreneur, but in hindsight, you have worked with artisans, local weavers to promote local goods. And you're also an advocate for mental health for women, especially who have crossed the threshold of motherhood and pregnancy, who are in their 40s and their kids are growing up. And, it's quite inherent because women don't put their health, up front. We're always taking care of the household, but you have
Absolutely.
raised a voice that this is important. Putting yourself first is important. Self-care is important. What do you have to say about that?
So you become aware of all these situations once you go through them yourself. And it always happens that it's a wake up call for you. And when you do have that wake up call, you kind of search for solutions. And when I did find the solution, I'm that kind of person who would like to share it with others.
Yes.
So, fortunately, at that point of time, I was also studying nutrition, health, fitness, and COVID happened. That gave an opportunity for me to learn a lot about social media and try and share what I have learned and how things have helped me. There's no fancy diet required, there are no fancy equipments required, not even expensive stuff. Things that are there in your own kitchen, things that we know about, but we don't kind of use them. We feel nani maa ke nuske kuch kaam nahi aate, but honestly speaking, those are the things that really work in the long run. Apart from that, I worked with a lot of hospitals. In fact, with Nanavati Hospital, we did a lot of sessions involving women, and we had a panel of doctors who they could share their problems with. And it was usually about women problems. So it could be about your PCOS, it could be about periods, menopause, um, osteoarthritis, thyroid, pregnancy. These are things that suddenly come upon you. But if you're aware, you can delay it, you can stop it, you can maneuver through it in a better way.
Yes.
And that can happen only when you have knowledge of the subject. So we had these open forums where the women could come and discuss their problems with a panel of doctors, and I would help them navigate through that. To that extent, where now Nanavati has started a separate unit for menopause. Because I feel this is one time that women need the support of their families, be their spouses, their in laws, their children, because at that point of time, you don't realize you could be upset, you could be depressed, you could be under a lot of stress and not realize how to deal with it because your hormones are running wild and there's no way that you could control it. But if you're aware of it, yes, by proper medication, by eating the right kind of food, by just having a support system around you,
Yes.
and it can help. And things like this are not spoken about enough.
Yes.
You need to speak about this to the families, not just the woman, but to the families. And that's what I told the doctors. I said, when a woman comes to you, it's important to involve her family because that's the way she gets her support. So that's what we did. Not only Nanavati Hospital, I went to Hinduja Hospital. We've done courses all over India where we have these panel of doctors. So it's discussing thyroid, it's discussing diabetes, it's discussing pregnancy and their effects. So I think we reached out to a lot more women, gave out a lot more information. And like they say, knowledge is the key. Once you have the knowledge, that's when you start making those changes in your life. So I'm happy to be at a stance where I can impart that knowledge, when I can get women together, when I can get doctors together to be able to do that on a wider scale. So that's been very good.
And if that is not power, I don't know what is.
And apart from that, of course, that also took me all around India. And my fans know that I love to shop for saris at every place that I go because I feel that's promoting the local artisans.
Yes, indeed.
But whilst doing that, I realized that just by my buying one sari or two saris, that's not going to help them with their livelihood. And what they are doing needs to reach out to the rest of the world. So what I plan to do, in fact, it's on the anvil now, is my site called Hamara Apna. I'm getting the artisans to join in and I will promote their products, and of no value to me, they will sell their products at their cost, their marketing price, and they get everything back. So there's no markup for me. It's mainly only to promote their art so that their livelihood continues.
Wow.
So yeah.
I mean, that's a really kind way to help these, local artisans. Ma'am, you're a wonderful mother. You're raising a boy and a girl. And, they have turned out to be wonderful personalities. But while you were raising them, how did you impart or inculcate the wisdom where, there's a requirement for gender equality, and it stems from households, the way
Right.
we treat our sons and
Right.
daughters. But how was it for you? And through that, if you could share a way where, people can apply them in their households, like this is how you raise a son and a daughter at the same time by not making a difference, but by creating equality.
Well, first and foremost, the household tasks have to be shared by both. So it doesn't happen that, अच्छा भाई आ गया है, बहुत थका हुआ है, उसको पानी दे दो. No, that doesn't work. He goes and gets his own water. Cooking food, yes, I made sure that cooking food was something that they both enjoyed. They enjoyed doing it together. They enjoyed it by themselves. So both of them are equipped to cook food for themselves and their respective
Wonderful.
spouses. Because while they used to say that, the way to a man's heart is through his stomach, I also feel it works the opposite way.
I
That a
agree.
way to a woman's heart is when the man lands up in the kitchen and helps her.
Agreed. Absolutely agreed.
So I think that also makes a lot of difference. Uh, Both my kids were outdoor babies, so they have been playing football. Avantika started playing football at a very young age, and I encouraged her to do so. So I feel that when you bring up your children as uh, rounded human beings, it's not just education, but sports, the way they are brought up at home. It gives them a chance to interact with another human being with complete equality. So, from my side, that's what I've tried to do.
On that note, we'll have a fun game where, if possible, you can just answer in one word. So it's going to
Done.
be very rapid. Okay? A recent movie that you watched.
Mrs.
Fantastic. The last time you went grocery shopping.
Day before,
Your favorite street food.
pav bhaji,
A wellness tip you swear by.
soaked methi seeds in the morning. Really works.
If you could give some advice to your younger self, what would it be?
Don't be afraid.
A song that you're playing on loop.
A song that I love, Rim Jim Gire Savan.
Who did you idolize while growing up?
That's tough, but for me, Mr. Bachchan gave me the fangirl moment. Always, even now.
Okay. 3 Bollywood actors who are your friends.
I wouldn't say actors, but I would say Mr. Ramesh Sippy, very close to me. Ritesh and Janelia make a wonderful couple.
Okay.
Really love them. And the other couple that I'm very fond of is Shiba and Akashdeep.
A message for Women's Day in just one line.
Believe in yourself because you're truly worth it.
And that is a wrap. Thank you so
Alright,
much.
thank you.
That was
Thank you.
lovely.
Subscribe to Midday India. Get direct notifications on all our videos by clicking on the bell icon.